All right. We are live. Do you want to pitch right away or do you want a piece of branding?
Sorry, I missed the last thing. I have it in another tab, so it started playing.
Wait, you have what in another tab?
Oh no, I have the stream in another tab, so I heard you twice with the major delay, so I missed what you said.
Well, I was just saying, like, I wasn't sure if you wanted to pitch right off the bat or if you wanted a piece of branding to like give a few minutes for people to arrive if anyone wants to arrive. I don't know if anyone wants to arrive. I don't really care. I just
We we
this
can
is
we can
my
do a branding real fast, just to chill it out.
okay. I'll deploy the new branding that I did. Yeah, this is my first ever branding.
My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me? So far from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, and am not silent. Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the praise of Israel. In you our fathers put their trust. They trusted, and you delivered them. They cried to you and were saved. In you they trusted and were not disappointed. But I am a worm and not a man, scorned by men and despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. Yet you brought me out of the womb. You made me trust in you, even at my mother's breast. From birth I was cast upon you. From my mother's womb you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. Many bulls surround me, strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. Roaring lions tearing their prey, open their mouths wide against me. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax, it has melted away within me. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth, and you lay me in the dust of death. Dogs have surrounded me, a band of evil men has encircled me. They have pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments among them, and cast lots for my clothing. But you, O Lord, be not far off. O my strength, come quickly to help me. Deliver my life from the sword, my precious life from the power of the dogs. Rescue me from the mouth of the lions. Save me from the horns of the wild oxen. I will declare your name to my brothers. In the congregation I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him. All you descendants of Jacob, honor him. Revere him, all you descendants of Israel, for he has not despised or disdained the suffering of the afflicted one. He has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry for help. From you comes the theme of my praise in the great assembly. Before those who fear you will I fulfill my vows. The poor will eat and be satisfied. They will seek the Lord. They who seek the Lord will praise him. May your hearts live forever. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations will bow down before him. For dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship. All who go down to the dust will kneel before him. Those who cannot keep themselves alive, posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord. They will proclaim his righteousness to a people yet unborn, for he has done it. The end.
Good stuff.
That invokes a mood, dude.
I don't know what the mood is, but
It's I don't know. It's a heavy psalm. It's a heavy psalm. It takes a while to get to the resolution.
yeah, I kind of want to just like brand all the psalms and have that be like my only branding.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Feels like an album shelf, and you pull off whatever psalm is right for the moment.
Yeah, it would force me to like learn the psalms better. That's for sure.
I mean, worth your time. Worth your time.
All right, Foxman, you had a former estuary pitch that was not chosen, but we're choosing it today.
I love the fact that we're just making this like estuary B-sides.
Underground TLC.
Fair enough. I'll I'll give it the best way I know how, and then we'll kind of work it out. But the thought is something like, in the way that we talk about change or societal change, the structure that I've always been given as the way to participate in our society has been to look at the civil rights movement and all these type of protest movements throughout the last century as the kind of gold standard of what this looks like. And so it takes something that's real and like a real, thing wrong in the society, and then directs it towards, how do we respond to this? And I've been told always that protest is the way to do this, right? And so I was thinking about, what is protest? Like, everybody is gathered together in the streets in a parade or procession. And in some ways they are evoking some sort of, like, they're trying to evoke a response. Like, who will respond to our cry? And I think traditionally in religious circles, that would be God. Like, God would be the person that you're crying out to. Like, we need justice. No one else will provide it. God should. But the way that I think it's turned is that protest has become a crying out to the gods of America, the government system, whoever is kind of controlling that, these forces should change. And this kind of goes on to, like, the biggest response, or the government is kind of the biggest gun. And so let's point the biggest gun at whatever the big problem is right now. And so this also goes back to, like, Coney 2012 is one of these key moments where we saw that there was this big problem in Uganda. And the response of this organization that was brought to kind of protest it, put it out there, their lobbying was for military action to be happening on the ground in Uganda, to put American troops there. Which sounds crazy to us right now, but in the moment, like, that follows the same line of we want the government to do something. So what is the government going to do in a nation far away? Well, presumably send troops there. And so that's one piece of this. And as we're talking about spirits and stuff, Ethan, you brought up to me yesterday about how there is also this link in how do we discern the spirits of even the TLC. Right, we're talking about the fourth wave. Neil has kind of coined these. I think it's Neil who's coined it, but these kind of eras of TLC, different focuses, different kind of waves of participation. And Midwestuary kind of marked the end of wave 3, and we're kind of waiting to see what comes next. And I think Skinkenstein, you have, like, kind of been part of that charge of artistic participation. Ethan, you also mentioned how CBAX has talked about, I'm kind of done with conversations, I'm going to make, like, motorcycle poetry now. And so there's this kind of element of, like, oh, there is a shift happening. And so, like, what is this shift and the spirits involved? So we kind of have a few different, like, threads to pull on, but that was kind of where I think this conversation was starting, at least.
There are some bugs around here, so you guys are going to see me nodding my head back and forth and up and down a lot. Please don't read that as agreeing or disagree with you necessarily, because I can't predict where these bugs are going to go.
I would like to just very quickly cede my time. Where's the button? I want to play Seabax's thing, because it's a minute and 40 seconds of this little motorcycle poem. And to me, it's just so interesting that, like, I'm fascinated, and I'm excited to hear more of what he's up to. Yeah.
I spend most of my days inside. Rooms, monitors, beeps, noise. And it all starts to feel the same. So I leave. Not far, just far enough. Out here, things don't ask anything from me. The road doesn't care who I am. The river doesn't need me to understand it. And for a minute, I don't have to be anything either. Just here. I ride a trailway. My son always asks me how fast different motorcycles are. This one isn't. It's slow. And I think I'm at a place in life where slow is kind of the point. This bike doesn't take me where I want to go very fast, but it takes me down the path, down the trailway. And somewhere down that path, that's where I start to slow down too. And that's usually right around the time I actually get there.
He is gonna hate me for saying this, but you can take the boy out. You can take the boy out of Big Eva, but you can't take Big Eva out of the boy.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
That's,
whoa, whoa, whoa,
that's
whoa,
that
whoa,
said.
whoa.
This is great.
Don't-
That was great.
Don't you insult the Big Eva boys, okay? This Big Eva
I'm
boy will
not.
boot you out of this stream. I don't need you. I just need Foxman. I'll get rid of you. Get out of here.
I am already as out of here as I can get, man. The Pacific Ocean is, a quarter of a mile to my left. That was good, though. That was good. It's
Okay, we have 8 minutes before I drop the link. What else do we want to churn up?
I'll excuse me. I'll just kind of keep flywheeling Foxman a little bit here, in that in his invoking the biggest, baddest thing to answer your problems. And I think I remember like an old Peugeot, either an old Peugeot video or maybe just something that he said offhand in a conversation with PBK, where it's like, for us English speakers, prayer is this kind of specialized language that it is not in like its original language. That's just like a peasant addressing a superior. So it's specifically when you are in a state of vulnerability and need before a greater power. And so like you should see prayer in like the Bible as effectively the same thing as literally walking into the throne room of the king and saying, "King, I need justice. There is my neighbor and I have been arguing about the boundary line for our fence. He keeps moving over here. I keep moving it back because that's where my grandfathers put it. Can you fix this?" And that is prayer to the king. So in one sense, this idea of like protest praying to the Lord's, like, that's the same thing. That is prayer.
So I've started spiritual direction with my priest. We've met twice. And the first time he asked me, like, tell me about your prayer life. And I asked him, what is prayer? And his answer kind of like shocked me because I'd never heard it before. It's very similar to what you just said. He responded was like, communion with the saints. And I was like, I've now come to terms with that, but I had never heard prayer described as communion with the saints. And I've been doing I always call it the Red Book, which is confusing because Jung has a Red Book. The Book of Common Prayer. Like I've been doing that now that as I'm like becoming Anglican, and I don't know. Like the throne room thing you're saying, Skink, is really interesting, and the protest thing as crying out to some God out there to come and save me or come and rescue me. Like I see that. I texted Noah when we were like talking about what we were going to talk about, sort of like the picture of like, I think it's the 250 Memorial Arch or something for America. And it's like one nation under God. And then at the top of the memorial is like kind of like the Statue of Liberty with wings. And I've always just like the Statue of Liberty has always been so interesting to me because I've always like viewed it as like just this giant pagan deity that sits in our harbor. And then we talk about going to spread democracy across the world. And I'm just like, yeah, we're spreading like that's the God. We spread that everywhere. And we go out and spread like the good news of our God to foreign lands. And so that's kind of a rung up from protest movement sort of, because now I'm talking about like national gods. But I don't like, and part of this conversation for me at least is like, what do you do as you're unbuffering and then the world starts to look different than when you were just like a buffered self and there was no spiritual world that was actually around you. And then you start to like look at protest movements and go, I think they're calling out to some God and some God might show up and help them. And I don't know if that's good.
Have you been to DC, Ethan?
No, never.
So like one thing about DC, and I know Skank has, he grew up around there, I think too. So you probably have been there. But if you ever go to the Lincoln Memorial, oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. The Lincoln Memorial is one of these like iconic ones where it's a recreation of the statue of Jupiter, right? Like it's yes. Lincoln sitting on a giant throne. The words "this temple" is carved above his head, like engraved above his head. Like it is very clearly a drawing on temple iconography. There's a statue in the Museum of American Culture, I think it's what it's called, of George Washington shirtless with like a toga sitting on a throne.
Okay, yeah.
I have a picture of it somewhere. I'll see if I can send it. But like all throughout, DC especially, you'll notice it. It's drawing again and again on all this temple iconography, and it's all there. And I think for a long time, Christians have kind of struggled with like, what do we do with this? How do we understand this? Because in a lot of ways, like some of our documents mention God, talk about God, but at the same time, what is the understanding of the divine in the context of, Lincoln is sitting on a throne, George Washington is sitting on a throne, all these pieces, the Statue of Liberty, I
was just going to say, while we're talking about imagery, Brett's icon for the Aflocalypse goes so hard. Oh my gosh. Yes. Look at that. Even here on my little phone, like the bright red background, like I can just minimally catch that it's the guy, carrying the cross up the hill. It's phenomenal work, sir. Phenomenal. But I mean, I think that's the question, and I think some of that it's interesting to ask. Well, interesting to ask. I'd be curious to see if the actual like sculptors and painters, what they explicitly thought they were doing, because I mean, like if we're entering like a Charles Taylor secular age, where the world is being more and more buffered, and we're like, lol, all those ancient gods, those are just metaphors for power and stuff like that. So why not just depict like our imminent like restricted powers, using the images of unlimited cosmic power and stuff like that. I'm sure that won't cross wires in anybody's minds. I'm sure that won't make them appear larger than life.
I mean, one thing too, like I remember at Midwestuary, there was conversation about how in Chicago, a few of the big towers there had at their kind of capstones, or whatever, the peak of the tower, they had like basically shrines to like Bacchic shrines, like Dionysian shrines up there. And what was the architect doing with that? Like, what was the intention? Did they believe there was a spiritual thing, or like you were saying, Skank, like, is this a in the are they in the secular age and they're just like, I just think it looks cool, or but you're doing something.
Yeah.
Even in a purely secular atheist worldview, I still think there's a sense where when you want to reach for something that's like higher, you reach for archetypes, or and you can find more safe language. Like an archetype is a safe language where like everyone can get behind Jung's archetypes, and it's like, well, maybe Jung is talking about these sort of like spiritual powers, and maybe we're all talking about the same thing, but we couch stuff in language. Is he about to claim the land?
Yeah,
I mean,
don't know.
since we're talking about it, I realize my flag, like I'm packing up my campsite, but like I have my flag here, so I might as well, commit to the bit.
Okay, speaking of committing to the bit, I'm dropping the link. So link is dropped. I'm going to pin it.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Yep. And I mean, like I, for a long time, like leading up to Sen, like I, got big into like politically into like the libertarian Ron Paul train in college. And that was sort of like a stepping stone for me into kind of Christian anarchism, Anabaptism, as a theology. And a big part of that process was a desacralizing of the nation on purpose. Once you can like start drinking from those wells, you start to see, or you are kind of like baptized into a frame that sees those as a form of worship. And I sat in there for a very, very long time, and it probably only lasts like 3, 4, 5 years where I've started to question my questioning of that frame and try and reconsecrate it in a way that puts the land that I was born in, that I rather love, in a trying to find the right spot to put America in the hierarchy, because I know it's not the top, and it would like to be at the top, and all the imagery says I should be at the top.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're pretty great, but you're not like that great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the hierarchy thing is so interesting, because like one of the things that has struck me, it's like a PBK line, is, I'll probably say it wrong, but like he'll often say something like everything has a spirit. And it's like, that's a lot of hierarchy. Like that's a lot of things to place in certain places. And that also means that's a lot of things that like, well, it's not a lot. Everything has the potential to then be like idolatry. Because I don't think we've said idolatry, but like that's kind of the center of this conversation to some degree. Mm-hmm. And I feel like as I've been reading any of like St. Paul's letters, I don't know if idolatry always comes up, but in his like more like sermon stuff, idolatry seems one of the things that he is most like obsessed with, of like, you have to let go of your idols and follow the creator God. And I've been thinking that, I said this recently to somebody, that I was living under like a, I don't know what to call it, like a idolatry dispensationalism, where it was like idolatry was a thing of the past. In the old days, they had idols and temples, but that's not how today works. And part of what you're saying, Foxman, or at least that I'm hearing, is like, no, we still have temples. We actually literally have temples in our capital, but then we also have all kinds of things that we place higher up the hierarchy, and then those either, I mean, I don't know if there's more than two options. One option is it becomes like a god to us, or the other option is like there are spirits out there that want attention and they will take that opportunity as soon as we offer it up.
Yeah, but it's tricky because I think there's also a thing to be reckoned with in that there are things that have happened that have dramatically changed the spiritual disposition of the world. Like idolatry, paganism is not the same after the resurrection.
Yeah.
But also, like we're at, well, again, who knows what the future holds? But it also seems to be that we're in a world where Christianity is not the same post Christendom. And I've seen some commentators make a lot of comparisons that like we're entering a world that's like the 2nd century where we're no longer a privileged status and arbitrarily hated, and a lot of and it's that there are some fitting parallels, but there are also not, because we're also I mean, let's just face it, at least in the West, like Christianity was like the dominant like moral foundation that everyone kind of more or less assumed to a certain extent. And if the world is moving beyond that, then I mean, we're the backwards ones. Whereas before we were the edgy, cool startup religion. People thought we were the atheists smoking cigarettes behind the school and stuff like that. And now we're the old fuddy-duddies who, because we were in charge for so long, all of the problems of the world are our responsibility. And justifiably so. They happened on our watch.
One conversation I've had a lot with, and maybe I haven't had it personally, but I've heard it a lot with between Protestants and Catholics for the most part, has been about kind of trying to discern the way that there's conversations around Mary, especially from a Protestant perspective of like, I don't understand how you can put Mary in this really high spot. It feels like idolatry. And a lot of the ways that gets communicated back is something along the lines of God's at the top of my hierarchy, and so there's room everywhere under God. It's usually how it gets communicated. Now, I don't know how much I, one way or another feel about that. But I think that's part of like the argument is something along the lines of, if you can keep the highest spot maintained, everything else can kind of work itself out under. And I think that's where AA is a little helpful, of having a structure of starting people on that cycle of beginning to find out what is at the highest spot or what should be at the highest place in your hierarchy. Trying to find the greatest power, or your higher power, and then you can at least be on a cycle of like the God of your own understanding, beginning to kind of do that work. But you have to be consistent with it, and it has to be a process, because as soon as you kind of stop anywhere, I think it becomes idolatry really fast.
Yeah.
And it cements.
To recycle language I used yesterday, I think the God of your understanding, it gets you onto the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
It pulls you off the sideline. It gets you, and it's so much easier to correct something that is in motion versus something that's immobile.
Yeah.
Which is also why Jordan Peterson was so important, because he got static men to start moving.
Yeah. What did I see? I had that same thought. I don't know. I was thinking that 2 hours ago, literally, that same exact thing. I want to make a quick note. The link is pinned in the chat. So we would love for more people to come on and join in the conversation if you can, if you want to. So I just want to make that invite as explicit as possible. I'm supposed to say something now, but I lost my train of thought with the brief admin note.
Well, and I think in some ways when we notice the idolatry stuff, sometimes our reaction is to kind of clean the house out and just kind of throw everything away. But then you have the problem of, the man who cleans his house and then all the demons come in, right? The sense in which you need to have something there. There needs to be kind of everybody serves something is the Bob Dylan line, right?
Yeah.
So you got to choose what you're serving.
Yeah, it's been interesting, like becoming Anglican, because now I have like 1 foot. Well, I kind of have 1 foot in everybody's tradition, which is a strange like meta move. But definitely towards like, because my parish is quite Anglo-Catholic. And And so like we also have like we have icons on our wall. We don't have like as many icons as an Orthodox place, but we have icons, and like even just like the opening for me to consider saints and Marian devotion, like these are all brand new things to me. And what you were saying about like, if the creator God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is at the top of the hierarchy, then like there are these other things that are serving him. And I'm thinking right now of Paul Allen's like fractal subsidiarity, universal basic institutions, where like if I'm participating in a power or a principality that is in alignment with the creator God, then like that's safe territory. But now we're talking about like discerning the spirits, which like we have that language, but like what does that even mean?
I can give my best kind of take on it. It's something like noticing that there's a spirit in front of you, in generally, right? That's kind of moving and acting. Figuring out what it's there, what it's trying to do to you, and its intentions, and then responding accordingly. Like how do you respond based off of that? So like, for example, if I'm going to a stream and I notice, that there's this impact on me. There's been a few of these streams around TLC where I notice that I'm just getting angry. Like there's not like there's no edifying nature to this. Maybe it could be an opportunity to grow my patience. But for the most part right now, I'm just getting angry. Okay, I don't need to be there. Like that spirit is not good. And maybe it's helpful for someone else and it might not be the same for them, but like for me, that is not healthy. And so being aware and wise to notice those things when they come up. That is the best case scenario though. That's not the normal.
I think the discern the spirits or test the spirits, I believe that comes from 1 John, I want to say. It might be in Paul,
so.
But if it's
from
first, and the thing about like 1 John is it's dealing with sort of this fracture in the community. I think John, like some read it as like John is dealing with sort of early proto Gnostic theological shifts, and they're asking the question of, are they still among us or not? And so you have these people that are using the same language, but the reference for that language is changing in meaningful ways. And so I think he's basically saying, like, you've got to not just ask the person to repeat all the correct shibboleths, but pay attention to, like, how are they using the shibboleths? How is their, worldview understanding, their relationships with one another? How is that? How are they embodying all of those things? And that's how you kind of notice what actual spirit is discerning them, because the spirit is the thing behind the language. And sometimes your language might be identical, but it's language that is motivated by two really, really different spirits.
I was thinking about Midwestuary as you guys were talking. And brief admin note. Skank, you've been shorted.
What?
PVK shorted you.
What did I do? Was I wrong?
Well, no, you got shorted though.
You got cut. You
no longer have pants.
I mean, I am beshorted right now. I am detrousered. It's true.
We're addicted to citations around here.
Okay, so I'm thinking Midwestuary. So I went and got my Midwestuary notebook, and I want to read a couple lines from here. That's what I want to do. We are downstream from a mass exorcism performed by Jordan B. Peterson. I think that's from PBK's talk. This is from Pajot. Every being carries heaven and earth inside. A seed is heaven because it bears the entire pattern of a plant. This is from Oldfield. This was her big quote. She kept quoting C.S. Lewis. We seek an enlargement of our being. The primary impulse of each is to maintain and aggrandize ourselves. The secondary impulse is to go out of the self to correct its provincialism and heal its loneliness. And then this is from Vervaeke. The brain doesn't try to predict the world. This is the first doorway to spirit. The brain tries to predict your body interacting with the world. Our brains are very interested in seeing, detecting, predicting patterns. And we kind of talked about Midwestuary being like the end of something.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of talked about there being a new spirit in TLC. Chad made a really good comment that when we're talking about like waves, the waves stack. Let's not forget.
Mm-hmm. They're not
What is that?
independent.
What does that churn up in you? And yes, I'm evading saying anything beyond just asking a question. That is exactly what I'm doing right now.
I'll say something about. Let me say something about waves, and the TLC. In a very profound sense, I don't care what wave we're in, and I don't really. In one very specific sense, I love all of the people here, but don't care about the TLC in quotation marks, because I don't want to simply exist to serve my conception of what this thing is. Like I've got stuff to do here, and I have found a lot of wonderful people to collaborate with that are improving my thinking and actually making me produce artistic work and stuff like that. But I think it's excessive focus on the thing itself can prevent you from actually like bringing in the new that gives it something to allow it to grow. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, no, like if some people really, really enjoy, plotting out the history and roles in the community and whatnot, but you also kind of need people that are just sort of indifferent to it and just being like, yeah, I've got work to do. And you guys are great collaborators. And that's kind of my approach, but I'm also anarcho-Baptist. So as soon as I have a boss tell me what to do, I'm like, actually, I've got a higher authority that says you don't get to tell me shit.
Have you seen any of those shorts or reels where somebody goes into it's usually a skit, but somebody goes into a store and they say like, "Can I speak to the manager?" And then the person says, "I am the manager." And they said, "Can I speak to like whoever's above you?" And then they like hold the hands of the other person. And they say, "Lord, you are above us all." And they're like praying. And it's this kind of is that whole thing where it's like there is no one above me except for God, so that must be who you're trying to talk to.
All right, Teo.
Yeah, I guess so, which makes me the Karen of the TLC now, I guess.
Teo, you need to speak.
What's up?
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I'm here to fulfill the Andrew role without Ian.
You're here to fulfill the Andrew role?
Yep.
You got to cam up and eat some cereal, bro.
Oh.
Oh, corgi swag. Andrew T. Okay, I got your navel gazing reference.
Indeed. Well, someone just said wave builds on each other.
Teo, can you answer
Yeah.
Secret Cave Woman Ugg's question, please? Because you've been around like a very long time. And earlier today, you were called a grandfather of the TLC. So are we moving away from focusing on abstract discussion and focusing more on making art?
Nope.
The intellectual circle jerking will continue until
Absolutely.
Claire submits.
Some people are, but no, we are not moving away from thinking talky, abstract conversations.
But I mean, the thing is, I mean, like, you need that theoretical level when you're making art. Like, you want your, like, that's related to the production of stuff.
I'm still getting my bearings, so let the conversation continue.
Yeah.
I'll chime in as and when.
Teo, you broke the conversation. You have nothing to offer us?
Absolutely nothing. Not even a little bit.
Teo is offering his presence as an image bearer of God.
My presence is a present, and you should be that present.
No, Teo won't come on screen because he's bald now.
I mean, that just makes you more TLC. The balder, the better over here.
He looks really good bald too. He
I'm,
looks
I'm,
really
I'm
good.
even faux bald with. Do you guys like my new toque?
Nice.
I got it at the Macaw Native Reservation gift shop. This is the only people in the continental United States that are allowed to go whaling. I was trying to talk to the tour guides at the museum yesterday about Moby Dick, and they weren't having any of it.
Well, what do we have here? If it isn't the man who's trying to take my stream time slot. I was literally trying to harness my chi, rev up my engine to get a vintage McMo stream cooking, and I open YouTube, and what do I see? The new
Hey, bud.
TLC Golden Boy with all my friends.
I mean, Foxman's been around for a long time. I mean, he is pretty golden though.
Bro, I'm talking about you, Mr. Moosehead, or whatever the hell you got behind you.
Yeah, it's an elk.
Wait, God, and we got to talk about this. People accuse me of aura farming. What is this office, sir? Oh my goodness.
Ethan is letting the
Eat shit,
profilicity
Ethan.
flow through him
Eat
like water.
shit, dude. You're a
and
boomer, bro.
we should all
Hey, guess
applaud.
what? That was dumb as shit, dude. You stay. You're staying. That was dumb as shit. You're staying, bro.
Are we cutting promos now?
Damn, bro. You're sick as hell, bro. Damn, bro.
I don't know, man. I'm just trying to foster the spirit of true friendship over here.
Damn, bro. That was Sigma. That was Sigma, bro. You are a true Sigma. Damn, bro. How do you do it? I didn't know you were tatted like that, dude. That was cool.
No, it wasn't AI. That was Alaska.
That was genuinely cool.
You're like
gonna
Wisconsin
say,
Bear
guys,
Grylls.
Doing my camping chores, and I found, where's my camera here? We've got balloon nubs in the bottom of my tent because they're everywhere in my life.
Balloon
Yeah,
nubs.
no. Everybody in my house hates me. But yeah, they're not nipples because the nipple's the other end of the balloon. This is the ass end of the balloon.
Balloon nubs is it sounds like a phrase a British man would use to try to insult you. Bunch of balloon
Yeah.
nubs. This is a bunch of balloon nubs over here. Scream for
I
the
think that'd be a balloon
nubs.
knob.
A balloon knob is talking about fat man's penis here.
Sorry, what did I interrupt, guys? I didn't mean to crash in, but the little bit I caught, it seemed like Tayo had crashed in, and so I just figured if Tayo interrupted, I could interrupt.
Ethan, do you want to
I've
ask
already
Big Mo
crashed it, so
the
yeah.
question you asked?
I think
Tayo?
McMo is just reveling in the fact that he, for once, gets to be the monkey crashing the circus rather than the wrangler.
I mean, I would never give away kayfabe to that extent if that were true, but I would like. I don't know what at all the stream is about, honestly. So yeah, all pro felicity aside, I'd love to be caught up. I'll shut up.
Here, Big
Okay.
Mo, I'll ask you the
No,
question
do
real fast. Are we moving away from focusing on abstract discussion and focusing more on making art?
Always have been. Meme.
Well, so I will say the people that not have been blocked from my Substack are yes.
Yeah.
You blocked people?
I block rude people
Oh,
who want to tell me what to write about without bothering to read the things we actually wrote.
Shots fired. Pew, pew.
yeah. I want to know who this person is, or these people.
You know who this person is, Tayo. You know exactly who this person is.
I do know exactly who this person is.
Okay, so Noah had this pitch at Estuary about like people protesting and it being like praying to foreign gods, and I really liked his pitch,
Or
and
national.
so I texted him, and then we were talking about like American gods, and then we were talking about a new spirit in TLC, and then we talked about idolatry, and then Skankenstein refused to mute his camera and made so much noise, and here we are. So this went from abstract to a chill stream, if that's what you're asking.
I seem to have that effect on people. But I think I'm still in my turning heel phase. So I want to disagree with Noah, or at least maybe this is an interesting distinction. Maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate, but it's is there a difference between kind of a religious act and prayer? Because I think one of the things Christianity affirms is essentially that like you can absolutely be doing ritualistic acts without praying. Like in fact, doing religious and ritual acts without prayer kind of defeats the purpose of the ritual act in some way. And so I would wonder, I guess, is the protest a ritual act, and does that necessitate that there's some sort of prayer involved? Because once you get into prayer, then you're like, okay, is it the prayer to the unknown God? Is that, are we trying to be Paul on Mars Hill?
I'd
Those
like
are
to
my
argue
thoughts.
I'd like to argue that it's explicitly a prayer, and it explicitly indicates the God that they are trying to pray to. So, like, for example, Coney 2012 indicated specifically the prayer is somebody do something to help these kids being kidnapped by Coney. The prayer was to the U.S. government, and the request was send U.S. troops to Uganda.
I gotta say also the whole Cody thing, I think, is an example of what happens when you treat your God like a genie, and the genie just gives you what you wish. It became like a Twilight Zone episode of like, oh my gosh, not like this, not like this, not like this. And also, like, think about how like the organizer's story turned out. Poor guy. I hate to draw attention to like his
It's bad.
psychic break and whatnot, but put him imagistically next to the prophets of Baal trying to call down fire from heaven with Elijah.
I feel compelled. I feel compelled to twist the diamond to a different perspective. One more, which is because what Noah was talking about sounded like more like the CIA brief of what the masses were meant to be doing, despite their ignorance and will. So I don't know if it counts, because as someone who was, I had the Tony 2020 bracelet or whatever when in high school, and so, but I wasn't thinking that like the government needed to step in. It was more, I naively thought that if enough people knew about something, then like there would be that would be enough for people to like obviously go to change. I didn't connect the dots in any way. I
Oh,
wasn't
I can.
praying it to the extent that I prayed to the actual one true God, creator of heaven and earth. But to Skank's point, everything about the whole situation seems a little kind of like MK Ultra to me. Like it really does seem like a thing
You,
where the guy, and the fact that the guy had the way that it went down, the way it went down, I don't know. I'm not saying,
you want you want to talk psyops? Sit down, children. Listen to old man Skank for a second
yeah.
here.
Maybe the
When
older
I was in
millennials can help us
college,
out.
at Liberty University, this is probably like I think freshman or sophomore year. So we're talking like 05, 06. Those guys were there shielding their documentary. So this is something that had been in the works for 6 years before the actual Coney 2012. So they had gone to Uganda, did their little documentary tour, probably funded by USAID or something like that. Came back with their footage, and I know it took them another 6 years to get enough public awareness that they could then activate their agents. That's one read. That's one frame. One way of seeing what happens. But
You don't think there's any legitimacy to like 3 guys go to Africa, like stumble on this crazy thing, have never heard of child soldiers, and then go like, my life has changed. I need to do something about this.
Dude, Africa is not real. It's a CIA psyop. Io is a known criminal. Outside of America, people know not to mess with T-stripes. It's up if he catches you in the slums of Manchester.
I think there's something to be said about, like, even if the people don't know that they're involved in it to the extent that they are, in some ways you could see it as a ritual, right? That these people are, the people up top, they're like, the way that we can solve this is by the US government stepping in. Mm-hmm. All the money that's being devoted, all the attention's being devoted is being directed for that purpose. So in your engagement of it, like, even if you specifically as a participant are not doing like, or are not intending it to go that way, it's the same thing with the participation in the economy, right? Like this sense in which when you pay your taxes, no matter what you're doing, you are supporting whatever the government is doing. Now, like, are you culpable? I don't necessarily think so. I think you are supposed to pay your taxes, but
to me, it's very much
present.
So to me, it's very much an open question to what extent the shadowy cabals have gained power over, for instance, my lifetime, or if they have ceded power to darker malevolent forces. Because in some ways, no, I can't help but think about your age being basically post 9/11 and kind of growing up with, you know, the internet in a lot of ways. I think that does actually have a serious, it has a serious effect on how much you trust the government. But what remains opaque is the trustworthiness of the government, like right now, but also like back then. And so it's easy to kind of hypothesize that, like, well, there was never a kind of golden age where like the EU hats and the like Salvation Army people showing up to your country. There was never a time when that was like a good thing and that the people were happy to see that. Because if you know, like, I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, you can put all the chips on, like, it was always corrupt. It was always like, or you can put the chips on, like, and this is the thing I really don't know. It sounds like a fairy tale to me, but like the idea that at some point, you know, in our history as a species, there were cultures that actually wielded power for the good, such that you could participate in the society without getting your hands dirty. So I think that's a very open question, and it kind of is like, it kind of depends on a lot of theological and philosophical presumptions, I suppose. But I'm going to listen now. I might actually even leave the stream because I'm not listening that good, and I just want to talk the whole time. You know, I thought I was going to be
the people that you can host. You're in the host position. I don't know what more you want. You want the big screen? You can have the big screen.
Yeah. No, what I really want and what I need is for people to go donate to my Ko-Fi so that I can I don't have to be embarrassed to not have DoorDash today when I pick my wife up from work. she'll be like, I'll pick her up and she'll say, "Did you DoorDash today?" And I'll be like, "No, but I did stream, and my generous friends donate to my Ko-fi, and this is a feasible side hustle for the time being. My love and my life, my joy." But yeah, with that, I'll cede the floor at the very least.
Up, fresh blood.
All right, Scott, what you got?
What demons are you worshiping, Scott?
I hope none, but I'm sure there's some underneath it all. You know,
I am
Pay your
not familiar.
taxes.
I am not familiar with the demon named Nun. Is that Latin for something?
It's the son of
Probably is
nihilism.
there probably is a demon named Nun, frankly. Noon, Newt, Nicht.
Yeah, I think she. I think I know where she lives.
The thought that I'm having, I think I've mentioned this before, that I think a lot of, as we moved away from the idea of the spiritual and became more material, the idols that we worship weren't seen as idols, right? So, you know, people would put their faith in going to college or healthcare and science, or, you know, even church, but just, you know, all these different institutions. So I think as time has gone, with multiple generations being raised in the material world, that the spirits that are behind there that never left, we were just convinced they weren't there, right? Stayed on top. And now as we just become re-enchanted and we're questioning the spiritual again, and perhaps even being able to see it again, we're not just getting to relearn the enchantedness of the liturgy in the Orthodox Church, but we're also seeing the dark behind maybe these worldly institutions, if that tracks.
I think one part that I've been trying to communicate, and maybe this is the best way to put it, is that we've put so much faith in the institutions to solve all the problems. And so we see homelessness in our local community, and our first response is is to say, you know, what is the government doing about this? What is the institutional structure doing to, you know, support these people? And I compare that to the experience of the early Christians, because I'm, you know, a filthy proddy. And their response was to feed the widows among them and the orphans among them. That was their first response, was to be hyper local and to respond that way. And when I see Christians today, my sense is that if they were back then, they would say something like, "Why isn't Rome feeding these people? Maybe we should protest the Roman government to get them to take care of our widows."
Well, isn't that part of the Apocrypha? Isn't that like what Maccabees is all about?
I still haven't read it, so
I don't know.
Yeah, we got
Maccabees is like a messianic movement. Judah the Hammer.
We're a bunch of proddies. Skank's the only one who will know.
I just told you it's about Judah the Hammer.
I think Ethan knows better than I think it's in his Bible now. But
where's Booze until when you need him?
Right. But no, what you just said, like, what's so funny is, like, you know, when you get like new atheists and just like contemporary criticism of how Paul handles slavery in the book of Philemon, they're like, yeah, why didn't he start a protest movement with like sandwich boards and standing outside the Roman Senate and be like, slavery is bad, okay?
Yeah, I think that it's very interesting because I don't see I guess because of the Coney situation, to me just seemed like it was just in an age, and I may have been at the age, but I just thought society and culture at large as well was still kind of like white pilled on protesting as such.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't, you know, yeah, there is a way in which protesting is a result of, thousands of years of, protest. It's a result of the Protestants, obviously. Why am I overthinking this? If the church had just gotten the freaking indulgences right the first time, then we wouldn't have had to suffer all of these woke folks marching in our streets. Thanks, Martin Luther.
I think if anything, protest is more like adapting things to a less monarchical governmental structure. Because you have things that you can call protests in the Old Testament, but that is somebody bringing a case before the king, because all authority and power is vested in one man, and he makes himself available to deal with like injustice in his realm.
Yeah, is every prophet like a one-man protest rally?
I mean, yeah, and like frankly, like all the people that are are more on the blue church side of Christendom, they love the prophets and talk about them as performance artists, people that are drawing attention to issues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think with the protest thing, like for me, part of it is that I have been convinced for a long time, and I think many others have as well, that like the national is what matters. And so to like Noah's earlier point of like, the government is going to save us. The government is going to fix this. And we get so excited every election that like, oh, this is going to be the time they're going to come in and they're going to like bring justice.
The year of the Lord's favor.
And then people like, and I think some of that is post 9/11 or post Iraq war, where it's like, no, like they're not going to help us at all. And some people just feel like, well, what's left to us but to go into the street and like shout about it, and it feels like having agency, where like I'm quite convinced of the local thing, that you could do enormous impact in your local community, but like that would also require you to like buy a house, and that's not always easy.
But I'm Ethan, realizing I'm a king in America. I'm one of the constituents.
President. Well, relax. You're a president. You're a president.
No. As a citizen of this country, there's this framing, and Paul got into this in his video. But I've been trying to find words for it for a long time. But the sense in which democracy has given us the illusion that we are all, royalty in the country that we're in, and that we all have agency over the way it runs. And so because of that, we're all in that spot of where a king used to be. Like the king used to be the person who had to know what's going on internationally so he can make the decisions. But like the peasant doesn't have to, right? The peasant is concerned with what's going on immediately around him. But now that we're in a democratic structure, we're all the royalty, and we all make the decisions. Or at least that's what I'm told, but it's not really how it works.
I'm wondering. Go ahead, Tayo.
Yeah, that was basically what I was going. Something similar to what Noah just said is the power of the protest comes from the belief or the trust in democracy, and as the trust in democracy is, well, I was going to say slowly winding down, but it seems rapidly winding down. The protest as a means, a prayer of change, has lost its power as well. So and I don't know if that's a good thing.
One thing that I'm realizing in this conversation is the extent to which I am completely unfamiliar with big city protests. I live in a very, very blue dot in a red forest in the mountains of Western North Carolina. And so all of the protests are very, well, I will say post-hurricane, the protests ain't what they used to be. But also, Miss Mo does not allow me to go to protests because of my high volatility. And so, but what I've observed is, and we used to live downtown, so I could watch, but I couldn't participate. And, but what was interesting to me was that there was very little kind of relation to the authority structure as far as elected officials in the city. One, because all the elected officials are Democrats in Asheville, basically. And so what that meant was it was more like a pep rally. It was more like a parade of like, we all agree about this issue. If you don't agree, you're not part of us. But then what was also very, very interesting to me was being involved in the social networks surrounding events like that and seeing the way that protests were avenues and opportunities for status shuffling. So if someone starts it is as dumb as this, but it's like if somebody starts a good chant, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, who started that chant? Oh, is that person? Oh,
Is
wow,
that why you were
was a
going to go
good
to
chant.
protests to be the chant starter, just to see if your chants would catch on?
No, I was gonna
Live A/B
I was-
lyric testing. It's beast
no,
research.
yeah. I was going to freestyle. I wish maybe if I had thought of that, she might have let me go. But no, I was looking to get into a fight. What can I say? I wanted to have physical violence. I wanted to partake in some physical violence, destruction of property, perhaps, but also maybe a little wrestle, a little scrap in the pavement. Get the blood going, get the juices flowing. That's what I was a little bit out for. And so, Miss Mo keeps me in line and doesn't let me go to places where I would want to commit acts of violence. And
Reason
But yeah.
number 5067, why McMo's blacker than me. He wants to go commit. He wants to go looting and trashing the city during protests. You people, eh?
yeah. But then the other thing that's weird is like, well, yeah, I guess I already said this, but they weren't interacting with the elected officials; they were interacting with the police, and so it really was a like people versus police dichotomy. It was not exactly the kind of like people praying to the government like Noah was talking about. So I think that's where some of my perspective is maybe different. Why it's taking me a little while to catch up.
I'd say
I don't
you can still
think
have
it's praying.
prayers.
I don't think it's praying to the government, but it's certainly praying to democracy. It's a show of this is what we the people stand for, or this is what we the people will not stand for. And the last protest I went to was a Britain First protest, which is a nationalist protest. But every time they have a protest, they counter protest with UK Antifa, which is as cringe as it sounds. And I was there just to watch and see what the fellows are up to. And neither side were praying to the government because no one believes in the government anymore. But what both sides were praying to is to sort of show that we are the voice of the people. This is what the nation is feeling. We are more attuned to the spirit of the nation than this other protest group. And it's a form of prayer for sure, but I don't think it's to the government. It's
And-
to
That's why kind of national spirit is kind of where I was trying to point towards. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I would
There's also
go ahead.
There's also the question of if you're not specifically directing your prayers somewhere, do they still go somewhere? If you're in a protest just speaking to the void, are there things out there that will hear you and take advantage of that?
So the thought I was having is that the prayers you're praying to yourself. And I think that was illustrated very nicely with Teo there. We are the voice. It's an act of self-gratification that we are going to do it. And so it's more of an inward prayer. That's
but
that's
it's
where
not to yourself.
You don't
I think by
it
definition,
is.
it's not to yourself. You don't have a protest of one person. There has to be a we, like you said.
It's like
So
our
there's
tribe.
Correct.
Yeah, it's an our thing. We're praying to. We're showing the force of the will of the people through us coming together.
Also, like, what is yourself in alignment with? Because, like, if you're in alignment with
There it
pride and there's a spirit of pride, then you're now, like, serving pride. Michael, good to see you. You know more about protests than any of us. And if you want to hear Michael's story, we've got it on this channel. So you should check that out because Michael has an incredible story. What's up, brother?
Yeah, I guess that was the lure. I spent a lot of time with what we're calling protests for anybody that doesn't know a little bit, like it was like in the communist kind of space, we don't really think about leaders, right? It's like everything's got to be flat. But I would have been recognized as a very active participant. That's kind of the way that we would talk about it. I was deep into the Occupy Wall Street stuff and got really caught up in that mix. And one of the pictures that I tell people about in those circles, or like in reflecting back on those circles now and trying to talk about it, is I remember in Occupy Philly, because right, like every major city sort of had their thing, and this is true for Zuccotti in Wall Street in New York as well. But I just remember the way that the encampment was set up. Right, because it's a multi-day, multi-week, multi-month protest that grew in body, but within that body was smaller bodies, right? And so you had your eco-activists, right, bordering on the verges of eco-terrorism, but not quite hopping over that line or not talking about it. You had your like Ron Paul libertarians, right, and they all had actual tents. And even like little cots and like places to sleep and food. Like everybody had their own things. You had your militant feminists, right, of sorts. You had your social justice within the framing of like Black rights in particular. But it was like kind of like minority focused. So you can imagine, all these groups, and everybody's been exposed to various types of these things, and you can hear their language, and so they're all convened there, and with even oddly enough, a remarkable presence from the Quakers in particular. The Quakers really were heavily involved. I spent a lot of times at Friend Centers during all this. So, the one of the themes that you would hear come up was largely, you know what? This is actually worth mentioning as well, and I want to be sensitive about it in the way that I talk about it. But some of the leadership within it, and some of the heaviest hitters that were kind of helping provide some structure, even spiritual guidance, and just hear me out. This is just true. This is just what I encountered, and I encountered it in multiple factions, in multiple cities. Is there was a fairly serious non-orthodox rabbinic presence. That's the way that I could put it. A non-orthodox rabbinic presence. Okay. So they'd be observing, but not necessarily. But they certainly weren't orthodox. They certainly weren't Hasidic. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the groups that would land there. But
that was very cheeky.
It's just what I saw, man. It's just what I saw,
Yeah, somebody get me banned, please. Get me off the internet. I gotta stop doing this, please. Just shut this thing down today.
Fourth wave, shortest wave.
Just something to mention. I've just noticed a little something. That was very.
It's just what was there. They were like the guys. So we had these general assemblies, right? And they were aimed towards like ancient Greek styles of organization and democracy. But the idea, again, with the heavy flatism, because there's also, kind of this is all under one large protest banner, right? Is this heavy individualism of sorts, although there's also like the postmodern critique in all of these groups against it. It's kind of weird. But okay, so you had these general assemblies, and the voting mechanisms were very like, okay, well, you bring everybody together, you have a facilitator. The facilitator can't be too powerful. It's really sensitive to that, but he also has to structure the meeting. You bring these issues to the table, and so you kind of have this like spokes wheel model where like from the different groups people come in, they convey the thing that their community is concerned about, and then try to basically get consent from the rest of the group in order for some initiative to move on. And then in addition to all of this, just to make it even wilder, you have an anarchist contingent who doesn't give a shit about anybody's rules, right? Anybody's ideas, what anybody wants to do. And the weird thing was all the other communities respected those anarchists and were like, yeah, they're like our autonomy contingent, right? Where if they see like there has to be no bureaucracy. It's just like if you want to go get something done, you go do it. Use all your autonomy, and if people want to do it, they'll follow you and go do it, right? So I'm just trying to lay out some of the bodies within these are, and so like when I'm watching like the Minnesota protests, or over in Portland or any of that, I recognize all these same groups. That even the Antifa stuff goes back to what we called them back then, which is like Black Bloc. Which is like kind of a weird military-esque direct action thing. So just to cap this off and not to ramble on forever, while I've reflected on that time and while I've watched, instances of basically the same spirits pop up, because when they start protesting, I kind of watch the same groups kind of manifest again. I even know some of them, right? But I'm also really into like Father Stephen DeYoung's work, as people have heard me ramble on endlessly about, and I think a lot about like Second Temple, the Second Temple period.
Before we get to the Second Temple,
yeah.
Few
questions. Not meant to be.
Technical difficulties.
Oh dear. Everyone
wait, you're good. You're good.
Am I back?
Yeah, Taylor, you're good. Go, Taylor.
I wanted to get Mike. I wanted to get your perspective on the question of protesters' prayer. And whilst you were in it, what was there a sense in which there was something that you get from protest? What did you get from protest? Let me just ask the question.
So there was an aim of, and like one of the most common things that you would hear with any of these groups was to take down the patriarchy, right? The feminists had that probably the strongest language for it, but everybody basically agreed with this, right? So what it is it's kind of like the patriarchy is a little bit of a stand-in, kinda, not fully lapping onto each other of empire, and all of it's got to be torn down. And then that's when we would turn to the eco-activist kind of folks that are very like Gaia, return to the land, and like, okay, well, we'll start again, but all this has got to collapse. All this is wrong, right? And there would be levels of seriousness about that depending on the group. Some people just wanted to see their social rights, something. Go ahead, Taylor.
That maps on very nicely with, I think Noah mentioned it earlier, with the fact that the Old Testament prophets there was a sin in the nation that they're calling out, in this case, the patriarchy. And there's also a future in which they're pointing to the kingdom of God, or in this case, eco-friendly, no babies born universe. So there is there's an eschatology, and Noah, you're right, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's a prayer.
Also, Scott, you were about to jump in.
So, thank you. I'm going to riff on, because I think he's pointing to something super interesting, and tell me if this maps. So when he was talking about the structure, I was thinking about the 12 tribes around the pillar of fire in the wilderness and how they were building their community. It was interesting because you mentioned the Quakers, and that started me thinking. And as I wrote that down, I was considering them being the Levites. But then you mentioned that little that little group of like priestly characters running around in there. And then, interesting enough, with the fact that everything had to be flattened because you don't have a raising pillar of fire that a hierarchy is going to naturally develop. You don't have a Moses, you don't have an Aaron, right? So there's no real direction. And then the anarchists were respected by everybody, enforcing the power of self. So your autonomy was the thing that you needed to exercise, which kind of bolsters my point that the protest is prayer to self and worshiping self and the power within self to bring about the change into the world. Just that was kind of my thought as you were
Just,
going on.
just to add on to the last point you made there, Scott, I think where I see that self being placed is democracy, because democracy in itself is the empowering of the individual to believe that they can affect change,
Yeah, you
and
just said it.
that's sort of what protests are leaning into. So yeah, I do see what your
Yeah.
point and what you're driving at.
Well, that, and then also there's the other side, which is there is a sense of negative identity, right? That we identify as a group because we're all against this one thing. Like we all identify this evil, and so we can gather around, even though we might have very different ideas on what to do about it, what the real problem is. We can all agree that that is the problem. And so there is a sense in which in unifying, and I've been trying to find words for it. The best words I can come up with is from the novel Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, where he says there's this evil god that's ruling this empire, and he's been around for so long that like all the cults are kind of built around him, and people will curse using his name. And there's a character who's trying to take this guy down, and he says, like, why don't even use his name in curses? Like, even in cursing his name, you are using his name to like swear an oath. Like, just don't ever like ignore him. Like your loyalty should not be even in opposing him. Like that is in itself another identity that you're building around this thing. And so
that curse thing is really, really interesting. Just when you think about the shift in swearing language throughout history. I don't know if anyone's seen the HBO series Deadwood. And they basically had to import modern curses so that the language would hit, because all of the swearing from that time frame was sacramental. I know one of my favorite pirate novels, On Stranger Tides by Tim Powers, he tries to do that. It's really interesting because they're always going on about God's body and God's blood and stuff like that, and he finds a way in a piratey voice to make it work. But it's a whole different worldview, and how people swear does tell you what is sacred.
So Barry Strauss's book Rome vs. Jews was a really interesting read this year for me, because in that, here's empire, here's an attempted benevolence within. So here's this big hierarchy. There's lots of little bodies in it, and then one of these bodies is acting up. But even within that one body, there's lots of little bodies, right? And you can go back to for First Kings or something to really get a sense of that. But within that, it's a great book. It's a great book. I really, I could hear the same echoes of the same groups, and it draws in stark contrast with the later Messiah-ins, right? Who were like, don't protest, give unto Caesar what's Caesar's, and live this different way, right? And a way to integrate with empire, right? Kingdoms rise and fall, and these things happen over hundreds and thousands of years, right? So those people are in stark contrast to the dagger men, right? To like all these different protesty blood and soil groups. But you can see a lot of the same groups sort of represented in Barry Strauss's work when he's laying out the Second Temple situation.
Mm-hmm. I've been trying to work on this for a while now. With there's a sense in which in the New Testament there's not a lot said, if anything, about what Christians should do if they're in political power. That it's just one of these things where there's an assumption that you are not going to be in those spots almost. And that like everything is kind of built up to like, how do you relate to a superior above you or somebody above you in the hierarchy who isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing? Like, how do you be a good slave? You know, these type of things. And there's a certain sense in which I've been looking at different ways that we react to the arenas that we find ourselves in. And so I made a list of these. And there's, playing along. I'm just going to play the game that's presented to me. I'm going to be, the Wall Street banker who's just going to do as much as he can to make as much money as he can, because that's the game. You have the people who say, I'm going to abandon the game. I'm going to be Amish. I'm going to just walk away. I'm going to try to just not engage. And you have the people who are trying to change it institutionally. And then there's variations between this, right? Like I think changing it also might involve protests on the ground level. But then there's this fourth one that I'm trying to find words for, but it's something along the lines of like shrewd manager, like esque. This way of kind of subtly entering into the arena, but then you're using the arena to point to something greater. That it's just the arena becomes a means to the end of serving God. And so like it takes a lot of wisdom and processing, and how do you do that? And I've been trying to work on that.
When you say work on that, I hope you mean write a video essay, because if it doesn't turn into a video essay, I'm going to start a protest.
Well, I have a Substack article, so it can start there. A video essay is the hard one because I don't know what format to put that in, but that's another. That's a personal conversation between.
If you're talking about arenas, I feel like you can just read it while playing Rocket League. That's perfect.
There you go.
So within each one of these like little bodies that I was in, right? Again, in reflection and around, some of them I had like I was closer to than others, but each one of them had a work of the people, and there was a collective work of the people, right? So that was also on this hierarchy of something. I use that term because when I tried to understand what liturgy meant, right? Then I was like, oh, okay, liturgy is the work of the people. Okay, so everybody has its work of their people, right? And so again, even in Barry Strauss's work, who's not like some kind of Christian apologist, you can see the fruits of these different liturgical works, which happen on like what you do on a daily, a weekly, an annual basis. Here's these cycles of work. Okay, so within these liturgy hierarchies and cycles, what's produced? And there is no avoiding the work of a people, because you will land in a body and they will do something, and then some kind of fruit is produced. And there is one body in this whole situation, the Second Temple situation, that definitely goes a very different way, right? That is remarkably different than all of these other paths. And so like navigating this stuff, like in a weird way, you've got the guys that were probably out there protesting, with their pitchforks. I don't know if they had pitchforks, but you can imagine the Second Temple period. So like, taxes. We don't want to pay taxes to Caesar. Oh, you got into our temple, and look, what the hell, man. Whatever. Our king, that's like the blood king, should like be in there. Oh, and so what St. Paul is doing there's a way to see that as protest, I guess, right? But I would say that, like, to me, the language makes more sense. And he went from this very active, very aggressive, very violent form of protest, right, which was a liturgical work, right, to what I would say is not a protest, but an absolute body shift into a different kind of liturgical work.
Well, and St. Paul is obsessed with, like, I mean, this was what I claimed earlier. It was like he's obsessed with idolatry and like removing idols, and like, so I have 30 minutes and then I'm out of here. So I would pitch this, and no one has to accept this, but like, what does it mean in our lives to remove idols, or to like point out idols for other people? Like, hey, I think that might be an idol you're worshiping. Like, what are we doing Saturday through Sunday through like the rest of our lives to like participate in the removal of idolatry?
I think there's only one way to do that. It's putting the most important thing at the top. I think somebody hit on that earlier, that when you do that, then the other things can fall into their proper place, right? This is why I'm not a wreck it guy. This is why I'm a work it guy, right? Because all the institutions, when they're not placed at the top, have a function. They have a beautiful function in the world, but they have to be properly ordered, as a one Peugeot would say, right? Because everything has beauty that exists in the world. If God's the creator of everything, he created the means by which we created the institutions. It's only when we put them at the very, very tippy top that they become the machine. They lose their God-given spirit to do the work, right? So I think that's the only way.
I think one of the reasons, like the first commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, is at the top, and it's so important to keep that there, is because I think part, like, getting a little Augustinian here, like, we are fundamentally created to be lovers. Like, loving is core to who we are, and our capacity for love is so great that anything other than the eternal God will crumple under the weight of our collective focused love and attention. All of our gods will fail us because we need them to be more than they're capable of being.
Man, I got goosebumps on my neck, dude. That was awesome. Thank you.
I think the pushback is, what does that mean practically? Like, how do we do that? So I think part of it is, it's easy to say, like, follow the 10 commandments, or like, and it's the right thing, right? But it's like, how does that play out is the eternal kind of difficulty. And maybe that's wisdom. I think partially the goal is to be fully conformed to the will of the thing that is highest, right? Like that there is no difference between like how you behave and how you participate in the world and the will of God.
Wait. Say that again, but use different words, please.
Okay. I mean, I'm trying to find other words than saying like a saint. Like this idea of like that you don't have to, that you reach a point in which you no longer need to reflect on what you're doing, but your purported values are aligned to the values that are displayed by the way you act. Is that getting closer?
So I think maybe I can tag into that. All right. St. Paul's life. Paul's life is the answer to your question, Ethan. Right? He's talking about like removing idols. What does he do? What does he do? What does he actualize? Right? So a lot of what he was doing didn't change. The guy continues to be a Pharisee. Right? He's a Pharisee his whole life, but now he is a fulfilled Pharisee in the coming of the Messiah. They're not waiting for the Messiah. he is fulfilled. He returns to his roots in being instructed by, and I always butcher this, Gamaliel, right? Having studied with Stephen, who he kills. He's responsible for killing Stephen, who he studied with, right? And now he repents, right? Has an encounter with the Messiah, who's always aiming for, must find this Messiah, right? And the picture of who that wasn't clear, but all of a sudden it's clear. And now he moves from that and he's setting up these communities. He's this bishop, right? But he's not just like some guy, you know, wearing some fancy hat or something. He's working with his hands. And he's a Roman citizen and he's compliant with empire, right? And you see that what's laid out in Galatians as him even, you know, you got these circumcised guys who like are kind of still got these old things. And you got these God-fear Gentiles that have come in and like they're having trouble sitting together and eating. And he's like, no, that's wrong, right? We commune together. We pass over together. We eat together, right? So how he lives his life, what he actualizes afterwards, is an example of what of the liturgical thing, the work of the people that is actualized, that kills the idols.
But like, how do I do that this week? Like, that's too abstract for me. How do I do that this week?
Yeah. I mean, like some of it is so like the eating example in Galatians, right? It's like, all right, so what do I do to do that this week, right? When I go to my parish, right, and I go through this liturgical thing, right, during Sunday, but coffee hour is part of that because coffee hour is a little Passover too. Every week is a little Passover, and this is part of that Passover. And I eat with them, and maybe I say some dumb shit or I'm in a bad mood, and they put up with me because it's a family dinner, right? It's a family dinner, right? And so I eat with them and they eat with me and we spend time with each other and we've put the highest thing at the top and we actually, you know, are participating in this body. How I treat my wife throughout the week, you know, I embed myself with a body of people, with this family, right? And that's how, because all my other draws to like, oh, I'm mad about the nation. I'm mad about Caesar. Caesar's a bullshit. I don't like the taxes. It's like, deal with it. Deal with empire. Pay what to Caesar's, and then pay what to God owes God's.
And I think part of that requires these cycles, right, of reflection and repentance. I feel like is one of those words that like it fits, but it might be too much of a buzzword. But it's the, you know, reconfiguring and then acting and then reflecting. And I think sometimes we can get caught in any one of those and not leave room for the acting and just playing it out. Or you get too much into the playing it out that you never take time to reflect. And so just making sure that there are these cycles in your life of the looking back, like, what did I do today? I know some people do like at night before they go to bed, they do a reflection on the day that they lived, and did that reflect their love of God or not? Don't know if that's probably something I should do, but yeah.
No, so I do that, but I find I do that the most in the imaginal when I'm praying. So when people in my life that I'm praying for, I think of myself and how I relate to those people. And then I open myself up to the Spirit to guide me on how to act in those relationships. And it can be everywhere. It can be with your colleagues at work. It could be with your boss. It could be with your wife, your cousin, your aunt, anybody, right? So the more people we're praying about and we're open to the Spirit to tell us how to act, we get to play those relationships out during the prayer. And then after we put away the ones that don't, right? That's where I hear God, not so much in the prayer, but when I'm playing that cycle out with him in that space. That's where I do it.
So from a what I noticed about my I'm in these parishes with like Palestinians and Syrians and Lebanese folks, for most of my time. Now I'm hanging out with some Greeks. I have spent some time with some Russians, and what I noticed from this eastern side of participation is it's way less heady. It's way less heady, and it's more, but they don't lose the sophistication there. But there's a intersection of what's happening visibly and invisibly, right? And so, do I actually take, my deacon to lunch, right? Do I actually take him to lunch? Do I eat with him? Do I have coffee with him, right? Do we go and show up and help him move stuff when he's got to move to a different location, right? Do I prioritize time with dinner or with my wife, right? Do I go and I take care of the property grounds at the most set apart, highest building that I spend time in all week? What do I actually do, right? What do I actualize, right? That is the convergence of the visible and invisible participation of the killing of idols, because and this is where we get into the attention and worship thing, right? What I attend to is what I worship, of which I fail constantly, right? But it's what's actualized.
Luke Thompson, the crowd is crying out for you. Things have gotten too serious around here. We need a joke. We need a cat smoking a cigarette. We need something. I see you're building a ginger bug. Mine is overdue. Please, could you tell us, is that a jalapeno going into a ginger bug?
I have a ginger bug. I need to feed my ginger bug and leave it out at room temperature so that it's rip-raring to go for tomorrow, which I will add to my... And then I'm making the rest of I'm putting a bunch of ginger, lemon, jalapeno, sugar in here, and then I'll feed it with the ginger bug starter tomorrow. And then I'll make more ginger beer because I'm going to run out. And then that's what this is. This is my bottled finished ginger beer. And my gut biome is so healthy right now. I can feel the microplastics just going out of my body.
Is your mustache made of microplastics?
Yeah. It's fake, actually. I can just pull it off. No, I can't. What are you guys talking about? I mean, I know Michael's here. He's probably talking about orthodoxy.
Well, you have 18 minutes and this is over. So, I mean, we can talk about anything at this point because we've gone around in a circle, essentially.
I don't know if he's here in the chat. I don't know if I'm signed in. Yeah, I am. But I had a flippin' fantastic conversation with Matt C. on the phone, not recorded, private, today, while my daughter was at dance let's look. How long was our conversation, Matt?
Are you just flexing right now?
No. Now I'm flexing. No. It was like over an hour. It was very good. It helped enlighten me. Tayo won't even come on stream with me anymore. It's sad.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't we all? But Matt was saying, I would love to go on a camping trip. I don't think I can. I realized that we figured out some Womboy Gate stuff. Wow, full screen. And I realized that me having intimate conversations with Womboy is like having he said, to put it in Southerner language, it's like it's like doing a duet. Where like it feels like it's romantic and intimate, but it's not. And if it becomes that, it's because you step out of line. You're kayfabing intimacy a little bit. But like it's real, but it's not real, So
honestly, I didn't know anything about Womboy Gate. This is breaking news to me.
This is all... Isn't it funny how the corner, I didn't know we were on the fourth wave. This is what's funny is You apparently know we're on the fourth wave right now. I didn't know that. We all
Yeah,
have
Luke,
different-
I told you, you are establishment TLC. So there's things
You're
in the
the
underground.
man.
Man, I did put in your chat this morning though, like because Everett Vroom, I signed up, I subscribed to his thing. Whenever I'm not as big a deal as Chad and Grizz because whenever people talk about TLC, the first two names that are mentioned every fucking time, guaranteed, is Chad and Grim Grizz. They don't mention me.
You don't seem bothered at all about this.
Well,
if you want
listen,
authority, you gotta stop calling yourself an anarchist, man.
I don't want authority. What I've realized is that somewhat this is like my role is like I will sow seeds and like kind of be hidden. I don't actually, and it's good for my ego. I don't even want to be referenced.
I don't think you're hidden. I don't think you're hidden at all.
And I referenced you this morning.
This wasn't fishing, but I'm big. I'm down for the Scott arc of TLC and his just like super sigma wisdom that he does. I'm all about it. There we go.
All right, Scott, give us some Super Sigma wisdom, please. 15 minutes left.
Eat jerky. I don't know.
Pretty good advice. Pretty good advice.
No, I don't.
Okay, Scott, who would you like to choose from the panel to give wisdom? Because we'll bring them up.
Teo.
Okay.
It's like a virtual duck, duck, goose.
You chose poorly. He can't even speak.
I couldn't either.
He has muted himself. All right, Foxman, you want to end this with a pitch? How do we do? Did we give you your SRA pitch? You know, did we get there?
I think we did a good job of exploring it. I think I'm priming the field for some of my more bizarre takes, and so I feel like it's a good spot. Someday I'll be able to give a really good pitch for human maxing and my case for it. And all of that is built off of my love of Jujutsu Kaisen. And so I need to find a way to talk about that with Gen X and older people.
I'm just gonna say, Foxman, if you don't up the bizarre level, then we will resort to rage baiting you to get something else out of you. So the ball is in your court, sir.
What is this Jujutsu Kaisen? Is this am I too close to Gen X? What is this? Anime? What are we talking about?
It's anime.
It's anime. It's good.
I love Naruto. Me and my son had a fun time going through Naruto. I actually had a Sasuke moment. It's not coming to me now, but I remember like I was going through something and he was questioning me as to what I was doing like in real life. And I was like, man, this is my Sasuke moment. I can't let it pass me by. It was a lot of fun.
Just realized, noticing Lorica's comment. Absolutely, Foxman, you and Lorica should talk about human maxing. He's the guy.
But the reason I point to that show specifically is because the way that structure works is that the villains or the evil spirits in that show, they're called curses, and they're all built off of negative human emotion. So it's like they represent collective fears or anxieties or feelings, and it can be a local one, like a hospital, like the collective grief, but it can also be kind of catastrophic. It can be like the tragedy around and anxiety around volcanoes or any of these things. And so they're all physically embodied, and then they're all trying to find a way to, combat this threat. But then at the same time, at a higher level, some people are kind of having these arguments about how can we solve the meta problem of these things even coming up in the first place. And so you have some people who are kind of going the kind of more Buddhist route, which is like we should all be detached from negative emotion entirely, and that will solve this problem. Or we should kill off people who can't control their negative emotions. So basically all the normies. And so there's just different ways of kind of processing this, and it's a really interesting kind of exploration into a lot of the TLC stuff. And it's fun to watch.
Okay, there's 11 minutes. I need two more. I need two more people. I need to hit the 10 panel. This will be the first time I've ever hit a 10 panel. We're so close. You got 11 minutes. Come on, Mark S. See, I feel uncomfortable telling you to talk because you're muted. Can I unmute you? I can't unmute you. All right, Teo, you keep coming in and out. What do you want, Teo?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, then Mark S., you can tell us what you want.
Yeah, how's it going? I missed most of it. I went to a funeral of someone I didn't know very well. And so I missed most of what we were talking about. I don't know why. I just felt compelled to come on here. You know? Just to let you know, I don't know the big issue. I'm sure Noah had a great concern that has been very thought-provoking. I don't know what it was, but today is Independent Bookstore Day. So I'm going to the used bookstore in Southridge Mall, and I'm gonna see what they got. Yeah, but I have a few things I'm really looking for. You know. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to just come on and talk about myself when there's a conversation.
Oh no, we're far past the point of conversation. There's 9 minutes, and I'm gonna shut this whole thing down. But we are joined by Secret Cave Woman Ugg. How are you?
I'm doing good. You needed a 10, so I figured I'd throw. I don't have much to say, but just hi, so you can hit your 10. Good to see you. Yeah, PVK jumped in too. I think for the same reason, just so you could hit your numbers there.
Y'all are so generous, so generous.
Oh,
Okay.
I was completely wrong. I thought Cave Woman Ugg was Claire.
I don't know why you people thought
someone
that.
said that the other day, and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
For some reason, I thought Cave Woman. Well, I didn't.
I just have a separate account where I don't talk about the Quran or anything.
I thought it was like the boomer Orthodox grandma, like that woman that converted to Orthodoxy a while back. Do you know who I'm talking about? I thought that's who.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No idea. No.
Okay, Cave Woman Ugg, is this your first time on a stream? Question 1. Question 2, do you want to tell us who you are?
Sure. So my first stream I was on that live stream that PVK did with Job, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Job, let me come in and say hi. And that was a free one too, so I had to give my chance. And then I showed up on Marty Parker's stream because he had some questions about Catholicism, so I hopped in on there, and yeah, I'm just hopping in until my toddler and husband get back from the store, and it's time to get back to work. Shh. I got a baby in the back, just by the way. I'm often not on because I'm like, you know, even if I can listen, I'm just too busy doing kid stuff and everything. But yeah, I've been here for I don't know, like a long time, but I've been on and off from the corner. So I only recently started popping in on live streams or whatnot. So yeah, I don't know what else you want to know. I'm cradle Roman Catholic, married to an Eastern Catholic, so I have a foot in kind of both sides of the.
Is it Ruthenian?
Yeah, Ruthenian. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So Luke, if you see me answering your Eastern questions, that's where my experience comes from there. So we have a small outreach in Austin, and we're kind of like some of the main folks involved in that. But we only have Divine Liturgy once a month, so I'm also often in the local Roman church, and then we have friends in the Ordinariate mission, and so I'm in a lot of different sectors of the Catholic world here. So
okay, I have to ask you, does your husband also watch TLC, or are you interested in TLC and your husband doesn't care at all?
So he introduced me to it. He sent me the original
there it is.
video about PVK and everything, but just more recently I've I watch more than he does currently, but we'll go through waves in and out. I think PVK said at some point that like his average viewership watches, X amount of videos every so years, and we were just like, oh, called out, that's us. So Luke's doing something with his ginger there. Interesting.
All right, 5.5 minutes, and this whole thing shuts down.
A fun fact: I have worn this same shirt every time I've appeared on a live stream. That's a complete coincidence.
And not washed it.
No. It has been washed many a time.
I kind of want to talk about Noah's. Or did I just dox you? I don't know. When can I refer to Skank and President Foxman by their real names? I never know.
Yeah, no one knows the name that would dox me, so it works.
Yeah, my name's in my handle because I recognize
there.
My chosen internet nom de guerre is a little racy for some folks.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an out. And I told that to PVK, and he's like, "No, I actually really like getting to call somebody skank in public all the time." So there you go.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, where is Nick? I never, because I would want to talk. I actually want to talk about Noah's ideas. I always like Noah's ideas, but I don't want to take over the stream. So, and you only have 6 minutes, so I'm not gonna. Never mind.
No, let's talk about Noah.
You missed it. We talked about Noah's
I'm happy
idea.
with that.
Noah wants to be talked about. Let's give Noah some attention. And Nick is in Wisconsin, and I will soon be fireside with Nick.
Oh,
you guys are all doing the big meetup thing or the small meetup. But so when you were talking about the idea, I think there is something to the idea. I like apparently this is Orthodox perspective, but like we all exist in the presence of God. Like we exist in the light of God, and
that's also John Calvin.
Yeah,
sorry.
And we either experience that positively or negatively. I'm just saying where I got it from. Whatever, just come at me as if everything is a war. So like somewhat there is something to it that like the collective imagination that you participate in, if you have certain fears and anxieties about. It's almost like creating the world that you're afraid of. You can do that negatively. You can create a kind of hell due to like group anxieties where you start acting in a way, because this happens on the internet. Like everyone's talking about war or AI or the sky is falling. And I'm like, you talk about that enough, it will happen. You lean into that enough, you'll create the very thing you're afraid of, but you can also do that positively. So I don't know if that's related to kind of like what you're envisioning or talking about.
Yeah, I think a bit. I think okay, I'll play around with the human maxing as little as I can, but the idea is something like our relationship to the spirits. Like what is the human spirit hierarchy, and the destiny that Psalms lays out is, like, don't you know, or Paul points this out too, but it's like, don't you know you will one day judge the angels. Like there's this sense in which like the destiny of humans is actually to be above these things. And so in some ways we're kind of in this in-between zone of like we're called to be of service to some of these spirits. As I give my taxes, I'm called to pay my taxes, give unto Caesar. But at the same time, recognize that the value of the human being is above these spiritual powers. And so my greatest calling is to be a husband, or one day be a father, right? Like these are actually the most profound things that I can do. And that sometimes we shift it because we think that, the thing that has the biggest impact is the most important, like the biggest impact, the one that will affect the most people. But the thing that has the biggest impact is actually the hyper local. Like I'm going to have much more of an impact on, on a one-to-one scale on talking to my wife than I am going to have making the best YouTube video I possibly could and reaching out to, 1 million people. Even if it changes their lives, it's not going to be the same as the responsibility I have just in my local life.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. We're both my husband and I'm an ex-missionary and he's an ex-seminarian, and we ended up finding something I think just a lot better in our small, well, one in our marriage, which was a huge blessing for both of us. And then also now we're in a smaller community. And so I think both of us are finding a lot more fruit on those local scales.
Yeah, I like that. What I just heard, I've thought about that a little bit, 'cause especially like how obsessed people are with woo a lot of the time, like angels and demons, and then like the angels in Isaiah when he has his vision in the temple, they're talking about earth and they're saying the earth is filled with God's glory, and so the angels are actually obsessed with the material world, you know. So it's like we're actually in a way, in the flesh more important. Not, I don't know about important, but like we're where the action is happening.
Noah, are you starting a stream?
I'll start it in like 19 minutes.
Okay, in 19 minutes, Noah is starting a stream. Thank you. Goodbye.